Definitely be, a little weird right away just because, it was a, pretty significant situation, for him. He's roamed us, so I think it'll, blow by pretty quick and we'll all be, right back to how we were.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's about a 10-second chunk of Christian Watson's answer when asked about Romeo Doubs in that situation. That's from yesterday. Now, Matt LaFleur spoke this afternoon. Some injury updates. Sounds like Luke Musgrave is going on the IR. Max Melton and Bo Melton going to be playing against each other, Packers Cardinals this weekend. I don't believe that I missed anything from Matt LaFleur this afternoon. I was watching the press conference out of the corner of my eye. I didn't cut the whole thing. I didn't record the whole thing. I don't know that we're going to dip into that sound tonight. We played a lot of Packers audio last night, so I don't know that I want to go down that path again tonight. I don't think I missed anything huge other than Luke Musgrave going to IR, which is unfortunate because I think he's a player with a lot of potential. But at this point, Tucker Kraft is so firmly entrenched as tight end one. I don't know that it changes the game plan a whole lot for Sunday. That's kind of what we heard. Coordinator speaking as well, Rich Bisaccia, Jeff Hafley. But that audio from Christian Watson from last night, and I have another comment or two that I want to play from him before the end of the show. I just really liked what I heard from Christian Watson last night. And I said that during last night's show too. I like my star players or my building block players to be well-spoken. I like them to be mature. I like them to be self-aware. I saw a clip of George Pickens earlier when asked about his eye black from last weekend that had a message across it, including a curse word. And he got fined. And the Pittsburgh beat reporters are like, did you know the rule that you couldn't put personal messages on your eye black or on your jersey? And George Pickens was like, no. Have you guys ever seen that rule come into play? And they're like, yeah, was it James Harrison or it was Cam Hayward a couple of years ago encountered that. And George Pickens was like, oh, before I was in the league? Okay, cool. Yeah, I've never seen it. It's like, okay, geez, guy. Acting like a little bit of a jerk. I like the players. If I'm building around a player, a young player who's going to be here for a while, want them to be a grown-up. I want him to be mature. I want him to be able to speak on their game and things going on around them on the team. I want them to be able to stand in front of the media and speak confidently about what's going on. That's the standard that I want to hold my building block players to. And I think Christian Watson is absolutely a building block player if he can just stay healthy. And Eric Oninetti brought this up last night too about Christian Watson and how he's all potential at this point in time. And I want to continue to remind folks, when Watson has been healthy for any extended stretch, he's been awesome. He's been a touchdown per game, basically, when he's been healthy. He's been a star when he's been healthy. It's not like, well, if he could just get healthy, maybe we could see what we have. No, we know what we have. We know what kind of player he is. Staying healthy has been the only issue. And I've really liked what I've heard from him, what I've seen from him in terms of attacking his injuries this offseason. Speaking on the Romeo Doubs situation yesterday, I will continue to snatch up Christian Watson stock. I just want to see this guy get healthy. But we talked a little bit about that last night. And, that's true of other players. Christian Yelich, I feel the same way about. I like my star players to be grown-ups. I don't like them to be petty and childish, and I want them to have some self-awareness. I think that's Christian Watson. I think that's Christian Yelich. But I digress. That's Christian Watson from last night. That's where we begin tonight. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Hope you're having an excellent, excellent evening. This will be the last chance that we have to talk this week. Tomorrow, I am off. I'm going fishing. I'm using a vacation day, and I will not feel bad about it. I'm very excited. Going to the western portion of the state, doing a little fly fishing as the season wraps up. So sorry that I'll be gone tomorrow, but that means we need to make our time count tonight. I want to preview Packers Cardinals. And what I'm really excited to do tonight, and excited maybe is a misappropriated word, what I'm motivated to do, what I'm antsy to do is to react to some of the comments from Matt Arnold in his end of the season presser with the Brewers earlier today. I was very excited to hear his commentary after the playoff loss last week. There were a couple very specific things that I wanted asked. There were a couple specific things that I wanted said. I didn't really get what I was looking for in the press conference from the Brewers general manager earlier today. So I will play you some of those comments and we can react together. We'll get to that around 4:30, 4:45. I want to begin the show by talking about the Packers and the Cardinals. And I want to move away, if we can, from the Romeo Doubs situation. Why didn't he speak with the media yesterday? Might he speak with the media tomorrow? I don't know. We did a whole show on that last night. I don't need to rewind and rewatch that movie. I would like to talk about the football coming up this weekend. I saw Aaron Nagler of Cheesehead TV earlier this afternoon tweeting that the weather might get a little crummy. The forecast for Green Bay on Sunday is in the mid 50s, and it looks like there's some rain in the forecast. Now, we can't predict the weather. It could end up being 70 and sunny. Who knows? I would like to operate, if we all could, for the next 10 or 12 minutes under the assumption and under the information that, let's say, Sunday's going to be muddy and wet and cold, okay? Let's preview the game through that lens. That sounds fun. That sounds interesting to me. Typically, when games are wet and muddy and cold, they slow down. There's fewer possessions. There's fewer points. I like to think of that. The label I like to use is a game becomes a Big Ten West game, the old Big Ten West. Iowa, Northwestern, Nebraska, before they started shelling out millions of dollars for their quarterbacks, right? Ground, pound, limited scoring, limited possessions, lots of punts, playing field position. That's a lot of times the life that a game takes on in the rain and in the cold. Now, I trust Jordan Love and the Packers offense more than I trust Kyler Murray and the Cardinals offense in the rain. And I like Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray's a sick player. I hope he gets it together and stays healthy for a long period of time and is able to maintain a high level of play because I think he's really fun to watch. I really like him. I'm a Kyler Murray fan. Doesn't mean that I would necessarily want to build my team around him. I don't know that he'll ever win a Super Bowl, but he's really fun to watch. And like sometimes I turn on NFL games. It's like, wait, who do I got? I got to watch Tim Boyle and Jacoby Brissett. You know, like Dolphins, Patriots on Sunday. Like Kyler Murray is electric entertainment. It's really, really entertaining stuff. So I like him. I'm not a Kyler Murray hater. But let's just face facts. In a game in the elements, in the conditions, sloppy turf, or if the ball's all wet, I trust Jordan Love. He's bigger, stronger, bigger hands. And Kyler Murray's used to playing in a dome. That's not unfair to Kyler Murray, right? That's not me being a Packers homer. That's not me viewing this matchup through green and gold color glasses. I think if these teams need to pass the ball in the rain, I like the Packers' chances a little bit more than the Cardinals. It's fair, right? So that information, we all can understand that. I like Jordan Love's ability maybe at home in the elements over Kyler Murray. Let's set that to the side. What if nobody's passing on Sunday? What if it's rainy and windy and chilly and no one can grip the ball and passing is, really, really, really hard to come by? Well, I think both of these two teams can run the ball. James Conner is like 4.7, 4.8 yards per carry this year. That's a good back. I think the Cardinals will be able to run the ball, and Kyler Murray can do some running too. Green Bay with Josh Jacobs. And I've really liked what I've seen so far with Emmanuel Wilson, which was kind of something that we were monitoring on this show, right? Like, did Emmanuel Wilson take a 15, 20% jump this offseason? I kept bringing that up because I thought that's all that was needed. If he could just improve a little bit in all these individual areas, he can be a legitimate running back 2 or 2A or 2B if Marshawn Lloyd is healthy, right? And I think he has taken that step. That's not insignificant for this Packers team. So I think both of these teams offensively should be able to run the ball. Both of these teams defensively will surrender some yards on the ground. We saw what Green Bay gave up last week to Kyron Williams and to Sean McVay. Now, I think Sean McVay is brilliant. That's not an opinion. I think Sean McVay is brilliant. And if you see it differently, I guess you can have your own POV, but I think the statistics and his accomplishments would speak for themselves. So I don't really fault Jeff Hafley and the Packers for giving up some rushing yards to Sean McVay and the Rams. He's really good. He's going to find a way to scheme some of those opportunities and some of those yards up, just like Matt LaFleur did against the Colts when everyone knew that they were going to want to run the ball because Malik Willis was starting after only being in Green Bay for 3 weeks. The Packers will give up some yards on the ground. The Packers are, if we go by yards per carry, and I know that through only 5 weeks, maybe that's a little bit of a dumb stat. That's not a Pro Football Focus EPA per rush, or, of course there are more scientific stats. Of course there are more specific stats. I'm just saying, broad strokes. Both of these teams give up lots of yards on the ground. The Cardinals are second in football in yards surrendered per carry. The Broncos are giving up 5 yards a carry. The Cardinals are giving up 4.7. Behind the Cardinals are the Giants, the Bengals, the Bills, the Seahawks, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Commanders, the Saints, the Packers which puts the Packers, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th. So both teams, let's say, top 12 in yards per carried surrendered. I know that's a little bit specific, but the Cardinals are just about the worst in football. Yards per carried surrendered. The Packers, a little bit better, but still, I wouldn't say that run defense is the Packers' strong suit. Both of these teams will give up some yards on the ground. So if this is a sloppy game, Josh Jacobs will be able to move the ball. James Conner will be able to move the ball. Here's my concern about the Packers. If this game becomes a Big Ten West game, if it's sloppy and slow and wet, and there's lots of punts, and scoring is suppressed, and possessions are limited, you know what really kills you in a game like that? Penalties. Penalties. Because if you are rushing the ball, and the defense knows you're rushing the ball, it's the 4 yards in a cloud of dust theory, right? If we can just stay ahead of the sticks and just methodically make our way down the field, we'll be able to scratch some points together and at the very least be able to flip field position. But if you have a false start, now it's 1st and 15. And picking up that first down becomes a lot more daunting when your offense is limited to mostly rush attempts. The Packers have been known to have procedural penalties. And last week, what was so annoying is you're getting them from wide receivers. It's one thing, offensive linemen are going to jump off sides. Chad Clifton, behind David Bakhtiari, might be the best left tackle that I've seen in my lifetime play for the Packers. Notorious for false starts. It happens, right? They're huge human beings preparing to block huge human beings. They're going to flinch every once in a while. You can factor that into the arithmetic of every game. Now, you don't want it to happen too much, but it's going to happen here and there. What really drives me nuts is when a wide receiver does it, or a running back does it, or a tight end. Well, now that's just sloppy. That's not buttoned up. And we've seen that from the Packers. That concerns me because if this is going to be a Big Ten West game, those negative plays, they put you behind the sticks. They make it almost impossible to exist and to succeed offensively in an environment like that. What else will kill you in a game like that? Drops. Drops will kill you because if it's 3rd and 6 and Jaden Reed runs a perfect route in the rain and Jordan Love makes a perfect throw in the rain and the ball hits him in the hands and he drops it, that kills you in a game like this because you punt the ball away. Possessions are harder to come by. Points are harder to come by. In a game like they played against the Eagles or even in a game like they played against the Vikings, those are sloppy games where the ball's flying everywhere. The offenses are ruling the day. You're going to make some mistakes offensively. In games like that, a lot more space, a lot more real estate to make up for those mistakes, right? In a game, in a potential Big Ten West type game, in a game that might finish 17-14, well, one drop on 3rd down or a drop on 2nd and 9 that leads to a 3rd and 9, which isn't converted, those plays become a lot more damaging. And it's a lot harder to make up for those mistakes in a game like this. Christian Watson, I was listening to his press conference from yesterday before we started the show. He was asked, and I don't remember exactly what the wording of the question was, but it was something along the lines of, how do you feel your offense is doing through 5 weeks? You know, you've had good games where you scored lots of points, but you've made some mistakes. This is Christian Watson's estimation, I suppose, is the best way to set this comment up. His estimation of the offense through 5 games.
I mean, honestly, I think that we've seen what we're capable of doing, and I think that everything that's gone, I don't want to say everything, but I think a lot of the things that have gone wrong for us have been self-inflicted wounds. So I think that we're exactly, where we want to be. Obviously there's, plays that we wish we could have back and stuff like that, but we're just looking forward, and we know that we have the team to accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish. We just got to, stop shooting ourselves in the foot, and we can beat anybody if we do that.
I think he's correct, right? Now, my pushback, and I think I mentioned this on Monday when we were reacting to the Rams game, the pushback, the devil's advocate to that line of thinking is, but if you can't clean those things up, it just kind of becomes who you are, right? If we get to week 7, week 8, week 9, and you're still committing dumb penalties and you're still dropping important passes on critical downs and distances, you're no longer a team that shoots yourself in the foot. You're just a bad team. You're an undisciplined team. You're a mistake-prone team. At some point, that's just who you are, right? You are who your tape says you are. I'm sure a coach has said that once upon a time. I'm sure many coaches have said that. Watson is right. When this offense has simply avoided stepping on their own, they've been awesome. They hung 400 yards on the Eagles. They hung 400 yards on the Vikings. right? Now, I think the Vikings defense is much better, but my point is, against good teams, good competition, and big games, this offense is hummed, even though they've made some mistakes. If the weather is crummy on Sunday and both offenses are living through their rushing attack, penalties are going to hurt you extra, and drops are going to hurt you extra. And that worries me because this Packers offense has had a lot of penalties and a lot of drops. That's my concern if this game turns into a slop fest. And it looks like it might. There might be rain and cold and wind in the forecast. And again, it's not like both of these teams are just going to eschew passing the football. I think they'll still try to pass. It's 2024, and I trust Jordan Love in the elements more than Kyler Murray because Kyler Murray plays in a dome and he's got small hands. But my point remains. If this is a slop fest, the penalties and the drop passes worry me because those hurt you 2 and 3x in a game like this, a potential game like this. 608-321-1670. You want to preview Packers Cardinals with me? We'll do that. We're going to hear a little bit from Matt Arnold coming up and later on in the show. He gave his season-ending press conference with the Brewers earlier today. I'm left wanting more after that presser, and I'll tell you about that. But to your calls, your thoughts next. It's the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The Wisco Sports Show. Going to hear from Matt Arnold in a little bit. Gave his season-ending press conference, or I guess end-of-season press conference today. His press conference didn't end the season. Devin Williams season-ending blown save. It was not an end-of-the-season blown save, right? Those are two different things. I will be off tomorrow, so I'm already looking forward to Monday's show. We can react to Packers-Cardinals, the game that we started to preview in the first segment of the show. Come Monday, it'll be all right. Great song, Jimmy Buffett. We will be getting a new segment on the show. It is my hope over the next couple of weeks. I really want to take this show to the next level. I want to give it a swift kick in the pants. We're going to start adding in some segments here and there. We're going to start doing this thing called the Monday Mailbag. The last 10 minutes of every Monday show, you're like, Grant, why on Monday? You want to know why on Monday? Because Monday starts with an M and so does mailbag. I'm a big alliteration guy. I think that's nice. It's clean. So if you have a question that you would like addressed, please send it to me. Email it to me. grantbills21@gmail.com. Very easy. First name, last name, the number 21. It's my favorite number because I really like Charles Woodson. Okay. grantbills21@gmail.com. I will answer your emails. They can be anonymous. I don't have to read your name. Sports related, non-sports related. In fact, for the entertainment value of the talk show, it's probably better if they're not sports related. But if they are sports related, that's fine too. The Monday Mailbag. Monday at 5:50, the last 10 minutes of the show. I'm already looking forward to it. It's a little bit of a lie. I am excited about a 3-day weekend. I'm going fishing this weekend. I'll be off tomorrow. But Monday show should be fun because I think Packers-Cardinals is going to be some electric entertainment. I like Kyler Murray. For good or for bad, that is an entertaining football player. And the weather might get mucky on Sunday, which could open the door for some real randomness. And that worries me because I said in our first segment, the Packers commit a lot of penalties and they drop a lot of passes. And those are two things that hurt you even more in a game with limited possessions, limited scoring, field position. Those mistakes hurt you more when possessions and points are at a premium. 608-321-1670. Wide open phone lines if you want to join. You won't have to wait very long. Mike in Portage texted in the first segment, said Christian Watson is becoming hateable because of his injuries. And his parents tweeting all the time, but he does not deserve that. So the parents, that's an interesting point. I try not to care about that because whatever. It's his parents. Who cares? You can't control what someone's parents do on the internet. I saw one of the Twitter doctors, this is a corner of Twitter, where people who've worked as orthopedic surgeons or whatever have carved out a niche on the internet as an injury analyst. They'll break down the replay of the television broadcast of a player getting hurt, and then they'll be like, oh, you see how the knee bends this way and the ankle, there's a ripple in the ankle. That means it's an MCL sprain, 3 to 6 weeks. And I guess sometimes they're right, but also, do we need people on Twitter breaking down injury film? I don't think so, personally. I'll just wait for the team doctor to tell me what's wrong. I feel the same way about sports insiders. It's like ESPN's going to pay Shams how much to tell us about transactions that the teams are just going to report anyways? It's not like, by the way, it's not like the Bucks traded for Damian Lillard and then we're like, don't tell anybody. We're going to bring him out on opening night and it'll be a surprise. And it's Sham's job to do the investigative journalism. Did the Bucks trade for it to bring that news to us? They're going to share it with us anyways. They're going to tell us. We don't need nearly as many insiders as we have in the world of sports, but that's secondary, the injury people. So I guess the story on Packers Twitter today was one of these Twitter doctors, these injury analysts, was saying there's no way that Christian Watson's ankle is fine. There's no way he should be back at practice. And I guess Christian Watson's dad tweeted at this guy and was like, dude, trust me, I would know. He's getting there. And the doctor was like, are you really his family? I haven't seen proof. Just a ridiculous Twitter exchange. I don't think Christian Watson's hateable. I'm annoyed that he can't play football, and I would imagine he's more annoyed than anybody. This last injury, it's not his fault. It might be Jordan Love's fault more than anybody else for putting him in that spot. I really every time I hear Christian Watson talk, I'm like, that's an adult. That's a grown-up. He's got some self-awareness. He's mature. Those are the types of players that I want to buy stock in as a fan and as an organization. AJ in Janesville says, please give me cold and rainy Sunday for tiny hands Kyler Murray. Yeah, right? I think there is a world in which those elements benefit the Packers because their passing game, I think, will be less hampered. But the Cardinals with James Conner can run the ball too. And if the Packers start making mistakes all over themselves, if you fall behind by 10 points early on in a messy, rainy, sloppy game, it's a lot harder to mount a comeback in a rainy, sloppy Big Ten West type game than it is in a game at SoFi Stadium, right? So that's what worries me about a potential slop fest on Sunday. All right, to your phones as promised. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? Good afternoon, Corey and Marshall. I'm doing good. I am heading over, I guess more specifically. But yes, heading out. No, it's the last weekend of fly fishing season. If not this weekend, then you got to wait until after the first of the year. So I'm getting one last hoorah in. A douchebag is more like it. Let's be real. If you're on the river and you see someone with a fly rod, you're like, look at this a-hole. But it is fun. I do love it. I'll lean into it. Well, yeah. That's where my right wrist strength comes from. Yeah, let's go with that. Casting a fly rod. That kind of rod. Yeah. Yep.
To an outdoor show, this is the last thing that kills me. So, anyways, I digress.
Yeah,
deer hunting season.
digress, please.
So what are we talking about today, Grant? I came in totally unprepared. I didn't hear the first 20 minutes of the show.
Packers, Cardinals. What's your gut feeling going into this game?
Oh, I didn't know it was going to be rainy. Did that just pop up lately?
Well, as much as weather can just pop up, Corey. I don't know. We don't know if it's going to be raining for sure. I said to begin the show, let's just talk about this game as if it's going to rain, because that sounds fun.
Okay, that's fair enough. In that case, I would say the biggest danger actually is having to rely on a field goal kick from the Packers to win the game.
Yeah,
that would be a problem. At the same time, I have confidence that Arizona probably got beat up a little bit playing San Francisco last week. They're on the road. They had a big, comeback win over San Francisco. They might have a little letdown this week, so I could still see the Packers going out let's go with 23-10. I agree with Tyler Hansberry that he's probably going to pop up a fumble or two.
Sure.
So that's just my gut off the top of the head feeling. No real scientific basis behind it, but I can see him holding to 10, maybe 13 points, maybe a 23-13.
I'll take that. I think that would be an outstanding outcome. Corey, I appreciate it. I just got some other callers I got to get to. And thank you, Rick, on the live stream for pointing out you weren't able to hear Corey for the first part of that. He was just asking me fishing questions. So unless you really wanted to hear details about fishing and wrist strength, you didn't miss out on too much. The field goal kicking is another detail of a slop fest that I didn't bring up. Right? Do you trust Braden Narvison in a 13-10 game? 3 points becomes a lot more valuable in a 13-10 game than it does a 31-27 game, where there's a lot more scoring chances and there's a lot more opportunities to make up for a subpar field goal kicker. That's another concern, 100%. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, you don't need to preface the scenario where we do or do not trust Braden Narvison. The answer is no.
I don't.
Trust him at all.
Yeah. Not at all.
Got my hair cut this morning at a local barber here, and just chewing the fat, talking Cardinals, Packers. They're confident coming out off a 49ers win. They're not scared of this Green Bay pass rush whatsoever. I was like, yeah, we'll see if Rashawn Gary can show up, and they're like, who the heck is Rashawn Gary?
I was gonna say, what did they say? Who? Rashawn Larry? What's his name? God.
Yeah, I mean, they're used to playing, against Nick Bosa, so it's just apples and oranges comparison between those two. But, their paychecks aren't, but their performance definitely is.
The gap between their performance is a lot wider than the difference in their paycheck. Let's just say that. Yeah. How is TJ Watt only making $4 million more per year than Rashawn Gary?
Right. That is ridiculous when you look at it.
Well, here's the thing that and I think most Packers fans get it at this point. I think most Packers media people get it at this point. But at the beginning of the year, it's like, well, the Eagles have a great offensive line. So you give the Packers pass rush a little bit of a break. Okay. And then the next 2 weeks is like we were playing mobile quarterbacks. So the idea is you want to keep them in the pocket. It's like, oh, okay, but wait a minute. Good teams have good offensive lines, and lots of good teams have mobile quarterbacks. At some point, you need your pass rush to win anyways. You know what I mean? Like your pass rush can't just disappear because the quarterback is mobile, or because the other team has a good tackle. Because if that's the case, you're just not going to get a pass rush against good teams when it matters most. And I think most Packers fans and media people are starting to wise up to that. Like I just don't like I don't like all the qualifiers for the lack of performance and production from the Packers pass rush so far.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. 2 first-round pick projects. Where are they?
Yeah, where's Lucas Van Ness? Too. Lucas Van Ness is on the Rashawn Gary track, so just give it another 5 years or so, and he'll be there.
He'll peak by year 7.
Yeah, that year 7 power spike. Are they really? I mean, are Cardinals fans really feeling confident about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I know the NFL is a week-to-week league, but I mean, what they've seen from the Packers, I mean, they just get the red zone highlights. It's been all right. I mean, they didn't see much of the Rams game. They saw a lot of the Vikings game, though, and that's kind of what I think they're going off of. And obviously, the Cardinals are coming off a big week, so I think they got a lot of the momentum in this case. I still think the Packers win. I mean, having this game at Lambeau, crummy weather, is huge.
I think so, too.
But, I mean, they're high on Kyler, and we've seen mobile quarterbacks kill this team in the past. So the pieces are absolutely there. And Kona, I appreciate the call. The pieces are there. They got a stud running back who's really running well this year, a mobile quarterback who's a really talented passer too. Kyler's really good. Marvin Harrison Jr. is excellent. Trey McBride is excellent. They have the pieces. And Packers fans, I really like Jordan Love, and I really like this team. I think it's a really well-constructed roster, but we have not seen them play a start-to-finish really good game yet. We've seen them have moments. We've seen them have quarters, right? If they would have slammed the door with another 10 unanswered against the Rams on Sunday, then that's the performance that we go back to. But they needed a defensive stand to close out that game. It's like we've seen it in flashes. We have yet to really see it for 4 straight quarters or even 3.5 quarters. We've really only seen it in 5 to 10 stretches at a time, 5 to 10 minute stretches at a time. So we are not at a point right now, Packers fans, was like, oh, Kyler Murray in Arizona. Yeah, that's a win at home. We don't know. I still don't trust this team. And that goes back to where we began the week on Monday. I don't trust the 2024 Packers yet. We might get to a point where I trust them, but we are not at that point yet. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Tony. Texas. Let me say, I do like Christian Watson's family, especially that sisters of his.
Why did I knew that's what you were going to say. She's a realtor, right?
Yeah, I have not bought a house from Lexi yet, but I'm looking into it.
You know her name. That's good.
I will say this. I was at the doctor today, Grant, because I'm getting a little bit older. Okay. And the doctor goes, hey, do you want me to give you some of that Aaron Rodgers stuff that he used on his Achilles? I'm like, hell yeah. And then I go, give me some of that Ryan Braun stuff too. The guy gave me some of these peptides that Rodgers took. He goes, Rodgers could not have healed without these peptides. I'm like, I'll take all of that and all the Braun stuff. So I'm loading up as I near 50 years old on this Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Braun medicine. But I digress. Hey, let's talk about the Packers and Cardinals. You know, I look at football. It's kind of simple to me.
Mm-hmm.
Turnovers and red zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what. Is it all that it's going to be, you think, turnovers and red zone? Because the Packers have been very underwhelming in the red zone.
Well, and this is another angle. I love how the show is progressing, by the way. These calls have been excellent because I kind of set the stage in the first segment. Hey, let's operate under the assumption that this game is going to be sloppy, which, Tony, means we'll have fewer possessions, fewer opportunities to score, right? And everyone since that opening segment has brought up other points. Corey and Marshall mentioned the kicker. Cone added to that. Now you're talking about the red zone. The Packers might only get into the red zone once or twice. If there's a lot of running of the ball and this is a low and slow ground and pound game, the Packers might only get into the red zone twice. And if they have to settle for 2 field goals, that might do them in right then and there. And they have had their red zone issues this year. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Last Packer point I have before I get to MLB.
Sure.
The Packers have got to figure out, Matt LaFleur has got to figure out how to kind of mold what he had with Malik Willis with Jordan Love without hurting Jordan's feelings. I really feel like that's the thing. He got this contract. They want to make him throw and open things up. But they can really move that ball, run the ball, and just play action it. And I think they really got to look at that.
Well, and I think part of that, and I want to get your baseball takes. I think part of that is Jordan Love operating under center, which he hasn't really done the last 2 weeks, coming back off the knee. And he said, I mean, Bukowski asked him, and hat tip to Bukowski, who was in LA, said, hey, as your knee gets healthier, are we going to see you back under center with that strong play action? And Jordan Love basically said yes. So you're absolutely right about that, Tony. Yes.
Good questions by the beat, unlike the Brewer beat. Hey, the Matt Arnold, John Horst, I swear the same guys. These dudes, these GMs, they all sound the same, very political, very middle of the road, same type of vernacular, the way they talk. So yeah, good to hear from Matt Arnold. I've never really heard this guy speak before, and I always think of the drunk Matt Arnold, who is Ron from Jersey. So I always get that confused. But my MLB point, I cannot cheer for the Mets. I cannot believe that the Mets are making it this far. It is unbelievable that the Mets could get to the World Series. I'm still pissed.
Well, I'm still mad about last. I'm still mad at the Brewers. I'm not really mad at the Mets. I'm mad at the Brewers. They had 2 outs to get, and they would have played this series against the Phillies, and I would have liked their chances because for the first time in forever, they would have advanced past the wild card round, and they've had all this juice. They'd have all this momentum, and maybe they beat the Phillies, maybe they don't. But I think the Phillies, as we saw, were flat-footed after the bye because, of course, that happens every year. That's why I wanted the Brewers to advance. At the very least, I wanted to see what would happen, and we didn't get to see that. Matt Arnold is a very genuine, normal guy. David Stearns was a little bit robotic. Matt Arnold just come down the dugout and shoot the breeze with the beat. He just likes talking baseball, likes talking shop. I think Matt Arnold will be as honest as a general manager can be and genuine as a general manager can be in a press conference if asked the correct questions. What frustrated me about today's press conference with Matt Arnold, and let's take a break, we'll get to it next, is that I'm not really sure that anyone on the Brewers beat asked the 1 or 2 questions that I really wanted asked about another playoff shortcoming. And it's not that grill him, put the screws to him, put the pressure on him. That's not it. That's not what I wanted. I don't think that's productive. But there was 1 or 2 questions that I wanted asked and answered. There was a topic or an idea that I wanted covered by Matt Arnold, and it never really got there. So I'll play for you some of those comments and I'll explain what was missing and why I really wasn't all that pleased with the presser that we got earlier today. We'll do that next. It's the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's certainly a lot for us to process. We're still processing it. I go through waves of emotion, honestly, when we're talking about it. It just sometimes it's driving in my car or whatever that is. I think the overwhelming feeling here is a lot of hurt. I think there's a lot of people in this building that care a lot about bringing a championship here to Milwaukee, and I think a lot of people were heartbroken, I think, with how we finished. I also think it's really important to acknowledge, a lot of the great things that happened this year, all the things that we overcame. I mean, it was pretty special. We had a lot of really great moments. In fact, after the game, we were here till probably 4-ish. A lot of storytelling. We talked about highlights and lowlights of the season. A little cathartic, just kind of working through our emotions there. And when you look at a lot of the peaks that we had throughout the season, there's a lot to be proud of, certainly. But with that comes the emotions of wanting to still be playing right now. And I think we all feel that. So again, sort of processing both at the same time is certainly a challenge for all of us. Still working through it.
It's Matt Arnold earlier today. That was kind of his opening salvo, and it was McKelvey's question that started off the presser today. And I don't remember exactly what the question was. It was very, wide open, talk about, some of the best moments from this year, or talk about, just kind of gave him the floor to talk about great season that we had, came to an end in heartbreaking fashion. That just kind of gets us in to this next segment. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. I am on Twitter at Wisco Grant, and I'm tweeting a tweet. It says we're reacting to the Matt Arnold presser now, for those on Twitter who want to join in on some Brewers talk. The show streams on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. If you're on those platforms, if you maybe don't have a Twitter, but you have a Facebook, you can find the show and the page, the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills, and the YouTube as well. That way, if you want to throw the show, if you would really like to do this, and I only say this because this is something that I would do with my favorite sports shows. You want to throw it on the TV, if you want to watch it on your computer. Watching YouTube on your phone is a little bit more stable. If you're walking around, if you're going on a run or something, it's a little bit more stable than watching on Twitter or Facebook. So that's why YouTube, I think, is a nice option to broadcast the show for the live stream. So Matt Arnold's presser was today. Pat Murphy also spoke. There was really nothing that Matt Arnold was going to be able to say today, the Brewers general manager, that made me feel better about the way the season ended last Thursday night when they blew that 2-run lead to the Mets. There was really nothing that he was going to say where I'd be like, oh, you know what? I never thought of it that way. Now it's okay. Now it's better. Like, no. That loss is always going to feel like a swift kick in the beans. and nothing that Matt Arnold was going to say. I did not come to this press conference today looking for comfort, solace. I came to this press conference today, honestly, because I wanted to hear some messaging from the leadership of this team that wasn't, well, we've made the playoffs 5 out of 6 years. I think we deserve a lot of credit for that. Well, we're the small market in baseball, and to keep operating at a level like this, to sustain success like this is a huge accomplishment. I wanted the leadership of this team, general manager, eventually I would like to hear this from the owner too. I would like to hear messaging that's not self-congratulatory, that's not self-praise, that's not, hey, I know we lost in the first round again, but give us credit for this. Brewers fans, we all give the Brewers credit for succeeding in the market in which they play. We do. We're not taking that away from them, and I don't think we ever will. No matter how many times they lose in the first round of the playoffs, we're always going to see the value of competing in a small market, doing things the way that they do things. We give them credit for that. We give them credit for overcoming expectations. We give them credit for operating with the payroll with which they operate. We give them credit for that stuff. All of those things, they can get credit for all of those things while also disappointing a little bit, getting bounced in the first round. In fact, this year, I'd say a lot more than a little bit, considering they had leads in all 3 games, including in the 9th inning of a clinching Game 3 at home in their building. So I came to Matt Arnold's press conference today wanting to hear that messaging, wanting to hear messaging to the fans. It's like, hey, look, we're not just pleased with making the playoffs. We're not just content to hang around as a small market. Getting bounced in round 1 is not acceptable. We don't sit idly by year after year while this happens. And we're going to continue to keep pushing to try to get the fans a better result because the fans deserve a better result. That's what I came to this presser today to hear. And in his first answer, or his first comment, really, he described how much it hurt to lose last week, how much the opportunity to deliver a world championship, to deliver a World Series to Milwaukee means. He talked about that. Now, the presser went another 25-ish minutes, and I was hoping to hear some follow-up on that. And I didn't, really. Now, I've been doing this show since 2018. When I started doing this show, sports talk radio, Jim Rome exists, Stephen A. Smith exists. I came up in a sports talk world where, it's not Dan Patrick, measured, reasonable sports analysis, although plenty of that exists. It's taking shots, right? And having a strong take. And you got to, if you don't like something or someone, you got to go after them on the air. And as I've done this over the years, I'm not going to act like I've been doing this 20 years, but I've been doing this now 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25. I've been doing this 6 years. That's every day for 6 years. That's a lot of time being on the air. I've grown up a little bit in that I realize the job of being a beat writer is complicated and it's a difficult job. And I get it. I don't think I often rip beat writers on this show, right? At least not. Maybe I used to. I think I've grown up quite a bit. I don't really do that. I love the Brewers beat. I think they do an awesome job. And I've met most of them at least once or twice. They are all delightful human beings. And I think they do a great job. I would have liked a little bit more from them today, addressing the fact that they got bounced in the first round of the playoffs again. Now, when I was recording Matt Arnold's presser earlier today, I wrote down the timestamps and then the questions that were asked. And I paraphrased, I abbreviated. These are the questions. Paraphrased again. What's the thing you're most proud of? What's next at shortstop? You've been very honest about Adames not coming back. Why? I think that's a good question. I think that's a reasonable question. Asked about Contreras' injury. Asked about Churio's season. Asked about how great Tobias Myers was. What are your favorite things about Pat Murphy? Who might be some of the future starters on this team? Mix of youth and veteran players. Christian Yelich and Brandon Woodruff. Where do we stand on those injuries? Where do we stand on Devin Williams? I thought Jack Stern actually asked a banger of a question about how do you, along the Devin Williams line, how do you, I guess, how do you justify or how do you rectify large sample size success versus small sample size postseason failure, specifically with Devin Williams? Tell us about the job Ricky Weeks did. Tell us about the television situation. Tell us about the Contreras workload. Does Mizrowski have anything left to prove in the minors? Tell us about Abner Uribe. I believe it was Drew Olson who asked about the culture in the minor leagues. This question, what do you say to fans when you have to make small market decisions? There was another question about the format of the postseason, which I just don't like, because the Brewers are the only team that struggles with this format. And actually, I think if anything, the format lined up perfectly for the Brewers this year. If they just win the games, they advance, they get to face an ice-cold Phillies team. They were obviously slow. They were cold. The Mets got to take advantage of that. That would have been the Brewers' advantage to seize had they just won one more game. Again, they had the lead twice in game one, blew it twice. They had the lead in the ninth in game three, and they blew it. Okay, so I don't want to hear about the format. My point is I go bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, and I talk about all the questions. There was not enough, hey, you guys got bounced in the first round again. I know the culture's great, and I know we love Pat Murphy, and I know you guys made the playoffs again. I know you're a small market. All those things you totally deserve credit for. How are we going to get out of the first round? And Matt Arnold's answer might be, I don't know. We're working on it. To which my answer would be, no kidding, you don't know. But make him answer the question. That's it. That's all. Make him answer the question. And it's not a matter of put the screws to him, put the heat to him, make him feel the pressure, because I don't think that's the media's job. I don't think the media's job is to put the screws to anyone. I think the media's job, and I didn't go to journalism school, but I think the job of the media is to question those in positions of power and hold them to account when necessary, right? That's different than putting the screws to them. Here's what I would have asked. I sent this in a group chat today. If I would have been there, I would have loved to be there today if my schedule would have allowed, and I would have had no problem asking this question. I don't think Matt Arnold would have had a problem answering this question. I would have asked, Matt, I'm reading this out of my Twitter DMs. Matt, so many fans are really struggling right now. And while they recognize the achievement of making it into the postseason again, many are wondering what's being done to, at some point, advance. What would you say to those fans? And Matt Arnold's pretty genuine as far as general managers go. He's more talkative than most. I think you'd get some sort of decent answer. And if he doesn't give you an answer, fine. But someone needs to ask that on behalf of the fans. Because I know a lot of Brewers fans right now are looking at last Thursday's loss and wondering, okay, if it's not happening last week, when is it ever going to happen? And I need messaging from the Brewers for those fans to tell them we're not okay with getting bounced in the first round again. And if they can supply any details of what they're working on and what they're looking to improve in the future, I want to hear about that too. I want that messaging. We didn't get it today. And I don't even think it's Matt Arnold's fault. It was a lot of self-congratulatory fluff. And some of that's fine because I think there are a lot of success stories from the season, but I don't think Thursday night's collapse in that series was addressed nearly enough. I got to take a break or everything's going to be jacked up. We'll come back, continue the show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. We got about a minute. We got to step aside, get to an update from Zach Heilprin. So if you're on hold, I am sorry, and I will get to you right after 5 o'clock. I want to continue to cover this Matt Arnold presser. I gave you some of my thoughts. Reason why I'm a little disappointed with what was said or what wasn't said or what wasn't asked earlier today. And again, I want to continue to reiterate this because I think the Brewers beat does a really good job. I think they tell awesome stories. And I think they're all, on a personal level, I don't know them all personally. I've interacted with a lot of them. I think they're just a delightful bunch. They love baseball, and they love the Brewers fan base. Like, I'm not criticizing them personally. There were a couple questions I would have loved to hear asked because there were a couple things that I would have loved to hear Matt Arnold address. And he's not going to address them unless he's asked. So we'll continue this next, including a couple comments. You'll hear more from Matt Arnold next. 2 minutes, no commercials.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers are getting ready for a visit from Arizona on Sunday. It's possible they could have wide receiver Christian Watson back on the field. He injured his ankle against Minnesota a couple of weeks ago, missed the game against the Rams, but he practiced yesterday for the first time since the injury.
It's super frustrating, but then I try to look at the positives of everything, and I think maybe all of the training that I put in to get my body right for the season is the reason I came out of it with not as bad of an injury, not as significant of an injury. So that's really just how I'm looking at it. If I'm able to go out and play this week and only miss one game, I feel like that's a positive from the whole situation for sure.
Again, it'll be the Packers and Cardinals on Sunday. Kick is at noon. Turn to the Badgers. They're going to head to New Jersey tomorrow. It's where they'll face off against Rutgers on Saturday morning. Wisconsin coming off a 52-6 win over Purdue, easily its most complete performance of the year. Scarlet Knights fell to 4-1 last Saturday, lost at Nebraska, but are favored by 2.5 in the game. Kick on Saturday is set for 11 a.m.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Farmers deal with a lot, including long days, stress, and fatigue. This is your reminder to take breaks, stretch, have a snack, and hydrate your body. Avoid farm accidents by keeping yourself healthy. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn how Rural Mutual supports Wisconsin farmers and prioritize safety on the farm.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, Brewers GM Matt Arnold says one performance doesn't change his opinion of Devin Williams. During the season-ending press conference this morning, Arnold said Williams blowing a 2-run lead against the Mets hurts, but that he still thinks Williams is the best closer in baseball, and they're happy to have him. Meanwhile, starting pitcher Robert Gasser will likely be out until the end of next season following Tommy John surgery. And the Bucs back at Fiserv Forum tonight to face the Lakers in preseason action. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
It'll definitely be, a little weird right away just because, it was a, pretty significant situation, for him. He's roamed us, so I think it'll, blow by pretty quick and we'll all be, right back to how we were.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Another day, more synergy with Zach and I. You hear that update talking about commentary from Matt Arnold? I'll play you that comment about Devin Williams coming up in a few minutes. Zach and I are we're just dialed. And that's how you can tell, again, we don't just work closely together as coworkers, but genuine friends, close friends. I love when Zach loves it and bring that up. This is the Wisco Sports Show. Hour number 2, final hour of the week. I will be off tomorrow. I am heading west to the driftless corner of the state. Weekend in a cabin, doing a little trout fishing, and that'll be the last. I began my summer in this corner of the state when Bill Michaels had his golf outing there in early May. I think it was in May, like the second weekend in May. And now I will close my summer in that very same place. I'm very excited. But means we have one final hour to react to the Matt Arnold presser, which I want to continue to do. But if you have Packers thoughts, I want to make sure you have a chance to get them in as well, because we won't have a chance to further preview this game tomorrow. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, what's up, Ray? It's Jared from Madison. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jared. How are you tonight?
So I'm good. I was originally gonna call and make a joke about, when do we start calling this a curse, but you kind of struck a nerve with me with that rant you just went on.
In a good or a bad way?
A bad way. Like it came off really entitled. Like, I'm a huge Brewers fan.
Okay.
I was born in 1983, so I've never seen anything, but I've been on the ride this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't watched baseball since last Thursday. Last night was the first night I turned on baseball, and I watched the Mets beat the Phillies.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you is, why not the Mets? When is it that the Brewers did wrong, and why are you discrediting the Mets?
I'm not discrediting the Mets at all. I think the Mets are doing. I think the Mets are doing. Here's what's so frustrating about the Brewers the last couple of years is I think, Jared, that the Brewers have they have a great strategy for being a small market team. The idea of just try to sustain a contention window as long as you can, get in as many times as possible, and one of the years you'll be able to catch a little bit of lightning in a bottle, and you'll get to come across a team that's flat-footed. The thing that drives me nuts is the Brewers keep getting beat by other teams who then go on to execute the Brewers game plan. Like, the Brewers had it perfectly set up this year to win that wild card series at home, have a ton of juice, have a ton of energy, and then go attack the Phillies, who had been idle for 4 or 5 days. And you're seeing the Mets do it. Like, I'm not discrediting the Mets. Like, the Mets made some good plays, but the Brewers were a great team this year, and they had a lead in all 3 games at home.
100%. But I agree with you 100%. It's the playoff format, and being that the third overall gets absolutely hosed.
Why?
Because they're going to run into the hottest team in
the Brewers are the third over. They were the third overall team, though. They're the team that has to play in the wild card, but they get to do it at home, and then they get to go at a team, the Phillies, that have been sitting idle. It might be the first and the second team, the 2 best teams that actually get hosed.
But you got to look what the Mets have done since they beat us. Like, they were better than us. They were flat out better than us. Is it disappointing?
I think they played better. They won those games. Yeah. I don't know that their league's better. I think the Brewers and the Mets are very similar in terms of quality.
They are. But at this point in the year, it's about getting hot. And we, unfortunately, it seems that every year we run into the hot team. Last year it was Arizona. It was the Nationals. It's like we just keep doing this to ourselves, and it's like, what more can we do? Like, are we cursed? Like, do we need to slaughter a goat or something?
We might need to slaughter something. Jared, that's a good call, and those are good points. And why I like that call is you're making me further explain myself, which is good. I don't know that the Brewers keep running into the hot team. I don't know that that's an accurate description of how the last couple of years have gone down. I don't think the Brewers, it's, oh, shucks, the hot team got us. The Brewers have had an opportunity to be the hot team every single year. At some point, you got to grab it, right? At some point, you got to take it. The Brewers have had opportunities against the Nationals in 19. They were leading in that game. Now, 2021 against the Braves, I think the Braves were just much better than the Brewers that year. I think the Braves were just better. So sometimes you tip your cap to the opponent. I think over the course of a 5-game series, the Braves just showed that they're the better team, okay? So let's set 2021 to the side. But I'm talking about 19, and I'm talking about last year. I didn't even think the Brewers were that good last year, but they had leads in both the games against the Diamondbacks. They blew it. And then this year, they had leads in all 3 games against the Mets. They had leads in game 1 twice. They had a lead in the 9th in game 3. They blew both of those games. It's not that they ran into the team of destiny, the Mets. It's that the Brewers and the Mets both had a golden opportunity in that series to reach out and grab a chance to go play a team that had been sitting idle for 4 or 5 days. The Mets grabbed it. The Brewers fell flat on their face and blew both of those leads. I don't like the framing that the Brewers have run into teams that were. The Mets had no chance to get hot. The playoffs had just started. Now, if the Mets had won 9 of 10 coming into the postseason and the Brewers had lost 9 of 10 coming into the postseason, okay, well, sure. Then maybe that framing would hold a little bit more water, Jared. But the Brewers won, I think, like 5 of 7 or something to close the year. The Mets were playing a doubleheader the day before they had to be in Milwaukee. I just don't think that framing is accurate. The Brewers and the Mets met at a series in Milwaukee, and the Brewers had a golden opportunity to win all 3 of those games, and they blew it. And then the Mets got to go on and attack a Phillies team that had been idle. My point is that should have been the Brewers. The Brewers should have been the team with leads in 2 of those games. I keep repeating that. The Brewers should have been that team with a chance now after some confidence coming off a big win. Sal Frelick and Jake Bauers are pimping home runs. Tobias Myers was lights out in his first ever postseason appearance. The Brewers then should have had the chance to go be that hot team. I just think it's victim mentality to say, oh, we ran into the hot team again. No, I think the Brewers birthed the hot team. The Brewers, and this is actually a bit of skepticism that I've developed since the Brewers lost this series because they've blown so many of these series now, right? They've lost so many opening series in the playoffs where you actually have to start wondering, like, what's going on? Right? They should at least by default win one of these because it's just statistically so improbable to get bounced in this many games. They lost like 9 of 10 or 10 of 11 postseason games. Like, well, what is going on here? I'm starting to question the messaging because we've heard David Stearns. He came out and said it, bites at the apple. One of these times we just need to get in, and one of these years it's going to be our year. The Brewers in the postseason have played the last couple of years like they're looking around waiting for some baseball god to come down from on high and bless them. Say, it is your year. Go take it. It's like the Brewers are waiting for, it's like, don't, just go win the games. Just go. Stop looking around and waiting like, is this our year? Is it our, oh, I guess it's the Mets' year. No, it could have been your year had you just won the games. And I do wonder if this bites at the apple messaging. I wonder if it's even subliminally or subconsciously, and this is probably a very, very sports talk radio take because I have 2 hours to fill every night, and I gotta think about this team in a way that gives us avenues and opportunities to talk about them. I do wonder if all the messaging of one of these years, it's going to be our year. I wonder if that seeps down to the players, and the players are just sitting around thinking, is this our year? Is this going to be our year? Go make it your year. The Mets made it their year. I don't know that the Mets were some team of destiny coming into Milwaukee. The Brewers had an amazing shot to win that series, and they didn't. Now, since then, I think that series got the Mets hot. I don't think the Mets came in as some team of destiny or some hot team. They came in as an opponent that the Brewers had a golden opportunity to beat, and they just couldn't do it. That's the Brewers' biggest issue. Just win the games. I think the strategy is great. I think the roster construction is great. I thought Pat Murphy as a manager was great. I think everything's been great. They just don't win. They do all of the hard stuff. And then on the field of play, when they have leads at home over a team that they should be favored against, they just don't get it done. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Let the wizard explain to you why you guys keep losing there, my
Please,
friend.
David Monona, please.
One couple of things. One, you lost to Quintana, a piece of crap pitcher who's been to how many teams?
Well, they didn't lose to him, technically.
Think about the Brewers' majority of their wins are against 3, 4, and 5 starters. That's who you face 60% of the year. You get into the playoffs, you're facing 1s and 2s. Pretty simple. It's called baseball IQ.
Yeah, but they had leads in both of those games, Dave. You know what I mean?
Yes, they had leads, but the baseball IQ in the first 5 innings. How many runners every game the last 5 years have they left on in scoring position? What, 10 or 12?
Sure.
And the reason you can't score them is because baseball IQ. 2-0 counts, 3-0 counts, when to swing, when not to swing, and you're facing the better pitchers, and they own these young Brewer players.
Is Quintana really that? Quintana, I wouldn't say it's not like Quintana's some stud dude. He is, I think, like relative to most of baseball, he is that 3 or 5 starter that you're describing.
Yeah, he sucks. But you had 10 guys in scoring position. And you lost the one game you lost. If you can't score runs, it's baseball IQ. When to swing, when not to swing.
Sure.
Studying the pitcher. And then we hear that what's his face is tipping his pitches. I wonder how many of our young guys are actually taking the time to study each bullpen instead of going out downtown Milwaukee and partying it up. They're probably with the Badgers and a lot of that nil money, but
at the KK Club, am I right? Lollipops and limousines, Dave.
Lollipops and limousines. But yeah, I mean, the baseball IQ of these young kids every year are these players. That's where they're losing.
So,
and it's thinking about three.
So, like,
go ahead.
Yeah, but you know what? It was the young guys who were great. You know what I mean? And Dave, Dave, I don't inherently disagree. It's just very cut and dry to me. They had a 2-run lead in the 9th inning with their best reliever on the mound.
They could have had a 5-run lead if they would have done something in the first 5 innings.
Yeah,
people keep thinking about the end of the game. But the first 5 innings, when you had 10 runners in scoring position, you need one kid to do his homework in the dugout and study the pitchers. One hit, not the last 5 innings. But that's not why I call. The last guy got me going off on baseball.
Why did you call that?
The Packer one.
Okay.
I had a chance to talk about why, once again, Matt LaFleur, or LaFlunk, is one of the worst managed coaches in football.
Okay.
People, the fourth quarter again. Look at the fourth quarter. They ran. 7 minutes, 18 seconds. They're on the plus side of the field. What does Matt LaFleur do? 3 incomplete passes and putt. They get the ball back. What does Matt LaFleur do? Throw the ball twice. 5 times they stopped the clock. That game would have never came down to the fourth down play when when the Rams had the ball. How many times has Matt LaFleur done this in his clock management?
So
he runs the ball for 5 minutes and he throws it. I don't care if it's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, or 2nd and 29. You got the lead. The clock runs. And it's frustrating because, man, that's why they almost got beat against Saturday. You think about all of his losses. Why does he lose? Clock management.
So and Dave, there's a lot of meat on the bone in that call. I appreciate it. I always enjoy our back and forths. I've gotten 2 calls about Matt LaFleur. I got a call earlier this week that Matt LaFleur doesn't go for the jugular to end the game, and now Dave's complaining that Matt LaFleur doesn't milk the clock a lot. Both can be true, depending on the game. Matt LaFleur called up a shot or called up a play that included a shot down the boundary to Dontavian Wicks. Wicks was open, and the ball went right through his mitts. You know, like I don't know what to tell you, Dave. I kind of want to stick with the Brewers mostly. I think there's some games where sure they get away from the run a little bit. I don't know that was their issue. I think you got to play to score points. 90 seconds in the NFL is an eternity. The idea that, well, you got to run the clock down so Matthew Stafford only has 50 seconds with the ball. That's still so much time. I think coaches play the clock way too often in the NFL because good quarterbacks with a good coach, good weapons, a timeout or two, they could just, you punt the ball away with 90 seconds left. And you're like, well, they only have 90, but that's so much in 2024. I don't know. Worthwhile complaints, depending on the situation, Dave. Yeah, I think Matt LaFleur's gone away from the run before. I don't know that that's some systemic problem, though, the way that you're making it out to be. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Tommy and Madison.
Hey, Tommy, what's going on?
Not too much. First thing, I don't know why I keep calling into the show. Every time I do, one of my people I work with gives me an email the following day about how they heard me and stopped being depressed about the Brewers. So I will start by saying, Brian or Dan, if you're listening to, you don't have to shoot me an email tomorrow.
It's understood. I'm a Brewers fan. I'm depressed. You don't need to ask why. Nobody knows.
Actually, no, they were pretty nice about it. It was kind of funny, but. On that note, you were complaining like go grab the game. What should have they done? Their good players aren't playing. Anyone with the name William sucked the whole time. The people that got us there didn't do it. Like you said, Sal Frelick hit a freaking home run.
Well,
who's going out and getting the game? It's people just not playing well.
And that's what I mean. That's what I mean. At some point, it falls on Willie Adames, William Contreras, Devin Williams. It falls on their good players, the players who have performed all year long, the guys who are making the money, to just be adults and go execute and go win the game. I'm not putting this on Matt Arnold. I'm not putting this on Murphy. I'm just saying, generally, one of these years, you guys just got to go get it done. You need to execute. You need to make the pitches, make the plays defensively, get the hits requisite enough to win. Enough to win. That's what I mean.
I don't know how you make Devin Williams not Devin Williams, but he totally flew up. And I'm just thinking, what else would you do? Would you have a different reliever?
No.
Go out and
That's
get
what I'm saying.
else?
That's what I'm saying.
Buy
Like
someone else.
Devin Williams needs to go. He needs to go slam the door, and he didn't.
Yeah, that's about the essence of what I was trying to get out of it. So that's probably all about I got for you. But I called earlier. October's for tears. This is expected, right?
No, it's baseball playoffs. The baseball playoffs are brutal, man. I think the baseball playoffs in the moment, there's nothing worse than watching your team lose. Tommy, appreciate the call. In the moment, sitting on your couch watching it go down. There's nothing worse than watching a baseball game slip away like that. Now, the NBA playoffs, I think the worst part about the NBA playoffs is the whole media sphere that covers the NBA, talks about the NBA, is so childish and juvenile that it's just the dread of knowing the takes that will be spewed and the opinions and all of the rumors and innuendos and all the crap that you're going to have to deal with in the NBA when your team loses. That's separate, right? The slow dread of watching your team get eliminated in a 7-game series pales in pain comparison to watching your baseball team get eliminated in real time. But once your team is out, then you kind of just wash your hands. You can kind of watch the rest of the Major League Baseball playoffs. I'm watching. I don't really hold anything against the Mets except for Jesse Winker, who's a boob and a child, as I talked about last night. Let's take one more call. We're going to take a break, and then on the other side, I'm going to come back, and I want to play you some commentary from Matt Arnold from earlier today. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? One more.
It's Darnell the Chump.
Hey, Darnell, what's up?
Hey, you had to go back 2 or 3 callers for what I want to say here,
okay.
But the Mets take, like, the Mets were so much better.
Jared and Madison, yeah,
just the better team. That is such a load there. I'm sorry, it couldn't be farther from the truth. That's not how baseball works. Like, at its core, there are plays in a baseball game that dictate how that baseball game is going to go, and that happens to good teams and it happens to bad teams. It's not like you just go out there like the 2014 Seattle Seahawks and lay a just beat down on the other team because you're just better.
Yeah,
it's not how it works in baseball, right? You can have the Dodgers. You have a $300 million team that loses to the whatever, like the Cardinals, or not the Cardinals, the Diamondbacks last year, who were a third of their payroll, right? Baseball's a different animal.
Brandon Woodruff can hit a bomb off of Clayton Kershaw, and Sal Frelick can hit a home run out of absolutely nowhere. Yeah, you're right. Like, and I'm not saying don't give the Mets credit. The Mets didn't quit. They battled. They made huge hits when they needed to mount comebacks in games in which they were trailing. I'm not saying the Mets don't deserve credit. I'm just saying it's not like the Mets were this hot team of destiny, so much more talented than the Brewers. I think that's a miscategorization. And I think you're referring to Jared and Madison, who called in a couple minutes ago, his call, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what I'm referring to. And it is what it is. Everyone's entitled to their takes, but I think fundamentally, like, the MLB playoffs, it's not about what team is better. It's about what team can execute in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings to give their team a chance to win. And the Brewers just didn't. They just didn't. They had so many opportunities to do it, and they just didn't. And that's on the Brewers. That's on the Mets for mitigating those opportunities, right? But that's also on the Brewers for not making it happen in the moment. And the Mets did make it happen in the moment. That doesn't mean that the Mets are this upper echelon team. Like, yes, they have a very high payroll, but I don't know. I think
it's not Yamamoto, Ohtani, Freeman, Betts. They have some good players and they certainly have lots of resources, which is why I roll my eyes a little bit when they're referred to as a Cinderella. But it's not David versus Goliath. It's more like, I don't know. It's like Oberyn Martell versus the Mountain. Like, there is a difference in market size and payroll, but it's not insurmountable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I also think that if you're the Phillies, you got to just be like, what do I got to do here, man? Like,
yeah.
Is it confirmed now that getting a bye can be worse than not getting a bye here? Like, we've had more wild card teams in the World Series in the last 5 years than non-wild card teams in the World Series.
You sit around for days, Darnell, and I appreciate it. Good call. You sit around for days, and when you begin playing again, you're dealing with the team that just went to battle together. You're dealing with the team that came out of a fist fight, stronger on the other side, more jacked up, more juiced up. it's not that you can't win. Look, the format is the format, and all of these teams have to deal with it. I actually think getting a bye is like the teams that have to deal with that first round bye have more of a gripe than the teams that lose in the wild card. Brewers fans, Brewers media should have no gripe with the format. The format was set up beautifully to put the Brewers in an awesome spot to go on a run. You get 3 games at home, and then you come out of that series and you get a chance to sucker punch the Phillies, who have been down and out for days just waiting. And we saw it. The Mets got to do the thing that the Brewers had the opportunity to do. Oh, only a 3-game series. Did you get the impression watching Mets Brewers for 3 games that series would have gone differently if it was 5 or 7 games? Because that series showed me that the Mets were ready to grab a hold of the series, to grab a hold of the moment to win a game. The Mets were beating the Brewers in a 5-game series. They were beating them in a 7-game series. The format, the fan base that should get to complain about the format least of all this postseason is Brewers fans and Brewers media. And yet, I hear people asking Matt Arnold today, if you could change the format, how would you change it? Don't change the format, change the result, because if the Brewers win that series, they get a chance to hit the Phillies with a right hook after they've been sitting idle and flat-footed for a couple of days. All right, I'm a sucker. One more call, then we'll take a break. I'm going to shut the phones down for a bit. We're going to hear from Matt Arnold. Wisco Sports Show. Hello, who's this?
Hey, Grant. This is Wally in Wisconsin. How's it going?
Hey, Wally. Wisconsin Dells?
No, just in Wisconsin.
Just in Wisconsin. Got you, Wally. Yeah, keep the cards close to the vest. I love that. What's going on? Thank you for waiting, by the way. You've been on hold for a while.
Yeah, not a problem. Hey, I was calling. I've been a Brewers fan for, 3 years now, but really at my heart, I'm a soccer fan. And looking at the Brewers team through the European spotlight of how soccer teams work has really made this postseason more frustrating for me, in all honesty.
How so? I don't know soccer super well, and I'll probably be able to understand what you're saying, but you're going to need to paint a picture for me.
Yeah, I know you don't know soccer well. I listened to you say Ajax when you were talking to Ryan Babel, and I almost lost my mind. But that's neither here nor there.
Oh, God, yeah, at the Super Bowl. Yeah, that was tough. That's fine. I'll hold that up. That's fine.
No, I won't hold it against you. But anyway, so just to break down, in European soccer, there's domestic leagues. So England plays English teams, Spain plays Spanish teams, so on and so forth. And then there's a big league called the Champions League. And obviously England has the biggest league domestically, and then there's Spain, Italy, Germany, France. But every year you get these smaller teams like Ajax that get to play in a tournament called the Champions League. And every year these small teams have to sell off their best players to the bigger clubs, and bigger clubs come looking for better players. Mm-hmm. So the Champions League is almost the perfect analogy for baseball. It's just when you have an opportunity with these good players before the big teams come in and swoop and take all your good players and have all the success that you can, you want to make use of all the good players while they're still on your team. And the Brewers, it felt like all the stars aligned all season. I mean, we were getting production from guys that you wouldn't have think. I mean,
Koenig.
Frankie Montas, what was his ERA and at the Reds, like 6.5 or something, and then he went down to a 2.5 for the Brewers. Like, there was just so many things that aligned, and it just didn't work out, which it makes it even more frustrating to sit here and say, okay, yeah, we got a bite at the apple, but that's fine. But when we get a really good, some bites are better than others, and this was the best bite we've had in a long time, and we didn't make use of it.
Well, and what's annoying, Wally, and I'm just really late for a break. I'd like to keep going. Thank you for waiting, and we'll talk more again. Call back sometime. I feel like I shorted you a little bit because I got to get to a break. But what's a bummer is these players that are going to get poached. Adames, he had a bad series, and Contreras is signed up for a little bit. He was dealing with a knee contusion, and I felt like an old man listening to, or a knee sprain or whatever Arnold was talking about today. I was like, that's a long way from the heart. And honestly, I hated his demeanor. I hated his approach. Knee aside, I just didn't like the perceived attitude, the air that Contreras had over that 3-game series. He didn't play well. Devin Williams is a player who's probably going to get traded for or acquired or paid by a big market team. I don't think the Brewers want to pay for his arbitration this year. To be fair, they probably shouldn't. He hasn't been a good playoff performer for them. And he had a bad moment at the worst time. Like, the guys who are here temporarily before going to a big team all played like dump. And that's really frustrating. Jackson Churrio's locked up for a while. Of course, the 20-year-old is great. Whatever. Baseball. All right, 3 more minutes. We'll come back. We'll hear a little bit from Matt Arnold. Got to take a break.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Continuing the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Twitter, @Wisco Grant. Show live streams there as well as on YouTube and Facebook. I like the video component. It's fun. Fun little side quest to the radio show. Call and text, 608-321-1670. Going to take a break from the calls for just a couple minutes because I have some comments from Matt Arnold that I want to play, and I want to reset my thoughts on Matt Arnold's presser earlier today before we get into it. When the Brewers were eliminated last week, we heard from Murphy after the game and the dust settled. And as a sports radio host, sports radio producer, right, I care about press conferences. A lot of people don't. I do because they signify messaging from decision makers on the team and they make for good sound bites to play and to react to on the show, right? So I started to think, okay, when Matt Arnold speaks, here's what I'm hoping to hear. Here's what I'm expecting to hear. And I was texting with some buddies who were Brewers fans, and I was talking with Kurt about this. Kurt Hogue, who covers the Brewers, wasn't at the Matt Arnold press conference earlier today, and I kind of wish he would have been because I think I think he thinks along very similar lines that I think, and I think he would have asked some questions that I would have liked asked and answered. But going into Matt Arnold's presser, Pat Murphy's presser, and if at any point Mark Attanasio speaks again, I'm a little bit more out of the loop with the Brewers schedule. I know when the Packers media avails are. I don't have the Brewers schedule in front of me, so I'm reacting to. When I woke up this morning, I didn't know Matt Arnold was going to be speaking. Okay, so I'm kind of reacting to this in real time. Maybe Mark Attanasio will speak. Maybe he'll have a presser. Maybe he won't. I want to hear from those in higher positions with the Brewers. I want to hear them say this type of thing. This is the messaging that I want. Hey, it's great making the playoffs as often as we do. We're very proud of our sustained success as baseball's smallest market. But we want Brewers fans to know that we're not okay with just getting in, and losing in the first round is not an outcome that we are okay with, and that we are going to continue to work and build and find a way to get Brewers fans what they deserve and what they've been waiting for a long time. And they could say World Series at this point. I don't know, make it to the second round. Let's start there. Because after the last 5 or 6 years, that's really what I'm dying for. Baby steps, right? You got to walk before you can run. I would have liked to hear more of that from Matt Arnold. Now, in his opening statement, he did talk about how last Thursday really hurt. We're all hurting in the building. And then back at 5 o'clock, I kind of read you the questions that were asked. What's the thing you're most proud of from this season? Who's your next shortstop? You've been very honest about Adames not coming back. Why? Tell us about the Contreras injury. How great of a season did Jackson Chourio just have? How great was Tobias Myers? What are some of your favorite things about Pat Murphy? And by the way, those aren't bad questions. Those aren't bad topics. But Matt Arnold's press conference today was a little bit more congratulatory than I would have liked it to be. I think the season was a success, but I think Brewers fans deserve to be spoken to honestly, and I think they deserve to hear from the higher-ups in the organization that losing in the first round is not an outcome that is satisfying to the general manager, to the owner, to the head coach. Now, another comment from Matt Arnold that I want to play for you, and I have them saved. I'm not Mike Clemens. I do not organize sound bites well, so just give me a sec. He was asked the thing that he's most proud of. And there's a small tidbit of this 55-second answer that I want to zero in on. He's asked, what are you most proud of from this season? Here's Matt Arnold's answer to that question.
I don't know if there's one or two. There's a lot. I will say, just for me, the first thing that comes to mind is those moments in games 2 and game 3 when this building was absolutely electric. I think that really stands out for me, and all of the ingredients that have to come together for that to happen. And that includes our fans, includes all of you guys, everybody, the ushers in this building, everybody that cared so much. Like, it all came together right there. I don't want to lose that feeling, and I think that requires a lot of people in this room, in this building, to work incredibly hard to get to that moment. And that was certainly one of the highlights for me, is just sort of having the Jake Bauers home run followed up right behind a Sal Frelick home run, who honestly, I wasn't even sure he was going to play in the series. Like, he was that hurt after he ran into the wall. And so, like, you think about the moments like that led up to that environment, not just that moment, but everything that led up to that. There's a lot in that. So I'll think about the two specifically, but there are a ton of moments that led to that environment. And I want to maintain that level of energy in this building.
I like that answer. I'm glad that Matt Arnold said that moment when Jake Bauers and Sal Frelick went yard and this ballpark was charged up. I'm thrilled that he didn't say, well, Vegas picked us to win this many games and we own this many games. I'm thrilled that Matt Arnold didn't say, well, no one believed that we would even be over 500 this year, let alone win the division. We did that. I love that his answer was relating to Thursday night, but you know why that answer tortures me? And you know why it drives me nuts, but it doesn't drive me nuts in a way that reflects poorly on Matt Arnold. It drives me nuts because the thing that Matt Arnold was most proud about from this entire season, or at least the thing that came to his mind first, the thing that he talked about today, was a moment in last Thursday's playoff game where the crowd was as loud as reportedly those Brewers beat reporters had ever heard it in there. And you know why it was so loud? Because everyone thought they were going to win. That's what that moment was about. That moment was not about, oh my God, the Brewers just hit a home run. Oh my God, they just hit another. That moment was a ballpark of 40,000 people, Brewers fans, all believing we're about to advance. We're about to win a series. That's what that moment signifies. And that's what Matt Arnold mentioned. He says, I don't want to lose that moment. That's the moment that I'm most proud of. The moment where everyone thought the Brewers were actually going to advance and win the series. That's indirectly what he said. The moment he was most proud of was a split second in time, or I guess it was 20, 25 minutes before Devin Williams came onto the mound. Maybe it was a half hour. I don't know. The moment that he's most proud of is the moment where Brewers fans actually thought for a split second, oh my God, we're actually going to do this. That's kind of sad. Like, I know we didn't win, but there was a moment where we almost did, and that was the best moment for me. And I'm not holding this against Matt Arnold. In fact, I actually kind of like that was his answer. I'm thrilled that he didn't say, well, we overperformed our season win expectation, according to many experts, or nobody gave us credit, or, our manager left us, and then the manager that we promoted actually turned out to be great. I'm glad that he zeroed in on this as his answer, but the answer is also a little sad. And not sad in a way that reflects poorly on Matt Arnold, but in a way that reflects just in a pathetic light of exactly how little playoff success the Brewers have had the last couple of years.
I don't want to lose that feeling.
Well, it only took about 20 minutes, Matt. That's about how long that feeling lasted. It's fascinating, and I actually think it reflects really well on Matt Arnold that the thing he was most proud of this season was the moment where, well, we all thought we were going to win. We didn't, but there was a moment where we thought we might. And that was the best moment of all. And I agree with him. I was jumping around in my living room. And while I'm a massive sports fan, I don't normally get animated to that level. I'll fist pump. I'll go like this. I'll high five a friend. I don't leap off my couch in amazement and fist pump all over the place. Brewers didn't win, but there was a moment where we thought we might.
I don't want to lose that feeling.
And that's the moment that Matt Arnold is most proud of, which again is a good thing. That means Matt Arnold's head is in the right spot, but that also just is so sad. It's like, well, we didn't win, but there was a moment where we thought we might, and wasn't it great? And it was great, but again, sad. We'll continue. If you have more thoughts on this, otherwise we'll continue to hear from Matt Arnold. Wisco Sports Show back after this.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
As I mentioned earlier, like one moment shouldn't define who he is, who we are. This guy was absolutely crushed, just like the rest of us after the season. And again, like this guy was unbelievable this year, and he's a 2-time relief pitcher of the year. So I still believe he's the best closer in baseball, and I'm happy to have him.
Not to be that guy. Translation. Still going to cost a pretty penny to acquire Devin Williams this offseason. That's what he was saying right there. Because if you come out and say, yeah, look, he's a good player, but he's had his playoff struggles, and that's something he's going to have to figure out. No, you don't say that. You don't say that. You say, no, I still believe he's the best closer in baseball. And he's got a lot of value on the trade market, even with only 1 year left before unrestricted free agency. Arbitration 3 guy, still a lot of talent, still a lot of value there if you want to acquire him, if you want to trade for him. That's Matt Arnold earlier today talking about Devin Williams. 608-321-1670, some empty phone lines if you want to jump in. Can text the show as well. I should probably text some text or check some text. Coyote Mike says, Grant, I do not believe in any curse against Milwaukee. The Brewers' best reliever felt it was automatic for him saving the game. Instead, he flubbed it. The Mets beat the Brewers not because they were hot, I would agree with you there, but because their key players made the winning play when they had to, while the Brewers did not. I agree with Dave from Monona too. CMPS. Coyote Mike. P.S. I did rewatch the game last night, and the Brewers did call timeout when Williams was struggling. ESPN kind of glossed over it on the telecast. I mean, yeah, the damage was done at that point. I don't know. He had an issue with the pitch comm too. Unless I am to misunderstand how the NFL works, every quarterback has a headset in their helmet that accurately and reliably relays calls for the entirety of a fourth quarter game. Long, wordy play calls for minutes, hours technically on end. And there's never really that many problems, unless there are all the time and they just don't tell us about it. How are the damn pitch comms so unreliable? I feel like every other inning, pitcher's going like, can you hear? I can't hear. What are they, Walkmans? Like, I don't understand. So that's another part of that inning. I don't think it would have made a difference, but Duncan Holman says Wally is in witness protection. Yeah, I didn't put 2 and 2 together that Wally in Wisconsin's all over Twitter. Very good Twitter account, very good follow. I don't know why. It's getting late in the week. I'm on vacation tomorrow. I don't know. It didn't click. I know who Wally is. It didn't click with me at first. 608-321-1670. Good text. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, this is Hot Take, Jake. Let me talk to you.
Hey, Hot Take. It's weird when you say that, but you can talk to me. That's how it works. Yeah, go ahead.
It's just kind of my thing.
All right.
I mean, if there's any wrestling fans, they'll understand the reference that listen to the show. But yeah, I don't know. The Devin Williams is as good as gone. That was a good call. Like, Very diplomatic answer by Arnold there, but that's just kind of the way you have to do things, which kind of leads me to my big point about the Brewers is like, man, I said it at the time that it wasn't going to be, a popular take, but they really should have traded Adames. If you look back, and I know it's easy to say with 2020 hindsight, but I can quote the tweet if I have to. They should have done it.
It's pretty easy to say with 2020 hindsight, correct? It's it's a little too easy to say with 2020 hindsight.
See, I don't know. I think if you've got that's the beauty of something like Twitter. If you can have the tweets to back it up. But I was calling for it, especially if you look at the market this year. It was such a seller's market. I mean, the price was insanely high for mediocre talent, and it's one of those things that you can't get back. Like I look at it the same way that the year Rodgers decided, I'm going to take the worst contract in Green Bay history to come back to Green Bay. Like, man, they could have got the Russell Wilson deal, and you can never get that back. So that sucks. It also just sucks as a Wisconsin sports fan in general right now. Like, I don't really feel excited. Like Green Bay, I don't think they necessarily look like world beaters right now. I think they could still figure it out. But
I was going to say,
my confidence is sky high.
We're 10 days into October. That has to matter for something.
Sure. I'm not saying it's over. I just mean from an overall perspective, like this is the least confident I've been in a Bucs team since the Budenholzer era started. Like, yeah, they're going to be good, but I don't see them as like, I don't know, in my heart of hearts, I don't see them as a title team. The Brewers just did what the Brewers do. The Badgers look like they're headed backwards. Like, I don't know, as a Wisconsin sports fan, it just kind of feels blah right now. Am I the only one?
I mean, I don't know that you're the only one. Look, if you think there's another fan base out there that feels fantastic about the championship chances of every single one of their teams, I don't know what to tell you. That fan base doesn't exist, right? That sports market currently does not exist. So I don't know. I think the Packers are in a fine spot considering their quarterback missed a couple games with injuries. They're 3-2. The NFL is weird, man. Like the teams that are great in late September, early October are often not the teams that are great later on in the year. This Packers team has a long ways to go. They have a lot of things to clean up. Jordan Love needs to play better, but I think they're in a fine spot. They have a fine platform now from which to jump off. That's why I think this month is so important, starting with this Rams game. Now you got two teams against tough competitors at home, but the Packers are supposed to be a tough competitor. So these next 2 weeks, both against the Cardinals this Sunday and then the Texans the following weekend, these are opportunities to grow and to improve and to cut down some of the mistakes, to get a little healthier. And I think they have everything. They have all the tools. They have all the resources. They just got to go out and do it. So I'm not going to cover the whole universe. I know you're talking Badgers and Bucks, and I mean, we're talking Brewers and Packers today. I'll speak to those two teams. And Jake, just because you tweeted they should have traded Adames back in June, that doesn't mean they should have traded Adames. That just means you tweeted something months ago. 608-321-1670. One last call, then we'll take a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Ridge Runner Mark. How we doing?
Ridge Runner Mark, I'm doing excellent. Bring us home. You're the final caller of the night.
So let's talk about technology because that's my gig.
Okay.
I sell electronics. PitchCom, the thing you have to keep in mind is look at how small that is and look at the room you have in NFL helmet. There's probably some bugs still to be worked out because it is also newer technology. You also have to look at signal strength. Guy on the sideline has probably a larger battery pack and a big old headset versus that tiny little thing that the catcher has. So there's probably some technological hurdles and that don't correlate between NFL and baseball. And how long have they been using PitchCom? It's only been, 1 year, 2 years? So they're still shaking out bugs, I think.
2 or 3. I don't know. I guess it's not something that I think about a whole lot. It just seems like the NFL is pretty technology reliant, and you never really see, like, I never see quarterbacks like pointing at their helmet going like, I can't hear you. And it happens like every other inning in Major League Baseball. I guess that was my only point, really.
Right. Well, it's really just based on the technology. So if you have the room in the helmet, you're going to have better technology because you have room for it. And if they're working with that cloth hat, it's pretty small. So I think it's just a technological hurdle that really is kind of limiting what baseball can do. Technology doubles every 6 months as far as speed and that, so it's going to get better.
I guess.
But that's probably your big difference. It's just the fact that you don't physically have the room
with what baseball has for the uniforms to really do the same thing as the NFL. And they have been doing it longer. So, I mean, those are the two main takeaways, but I get your frustration. I get it too. I mean, we're living in the golden age of technology. That should be something they should be able to figure out and implement rather pretty
All right, we're living in the golden age of Brewers baseball too. Not that it's amounted to any postseason series wins since 2018. So I guess there's a theme throughout.
Yeah, well, you're looking at they do what they always do, which is the most heartbreaking part is their strongest thing fails you. Last year it was starting pitching.
Yeah.
Failed us in the playoffs. This year it was our bullpen. Our bullpen was supposed to be magical. Bullpen gave up runs pretty much in all three of the games, did they not? Against the Mets?
I don't remember how game 2 went. Game 2, of course, I don't remember the game they actually won, because why would I? I only remember the traumatic ones. I guess Piabs gave up runs in game 1, and it was just Devin Williams. I think the bullpen as a whole performed pretty well. Even a good bullpen's not going to pitch like, 25 or 30 combined scoreless innings over the course of a series.
So then you say best player. So Devin Williams is arguably the best player. Best player failed. Last year it was
Burns.
Burns. He was their best pitcher. He failed in game 1, and then it fell apart from there. So it's kind of like a broken record. Is it coincidental? Maybe. I mean, we're talking baseball. Baseball sucks when it comes to the playoffs because not necessarily the best team progresses. You can say anecdotally that it's the hottest team, although the Mets weren't the hottest team. Maybe it was luck. I don't know.
The Mets now might be the hottest team. That's the thing. And Ridge Runner Mark, I got to run. Ridge Runner Mark, I got to run. Now the Mets might be the hottest team. I don't think you can run into a team of destiny. I don't think you can run into a white hot team in round number 1 unless they finish the regular season winning like 8 of 10, which the Mets didn't. The Brewers had a better record down the stretch at the end of the regular season than the Mets did. I don't know. I don't like that framing. It lets the Brewers off the hook for losing the games to say, well, they ran into a hot team. Yeah, but they didn't really. Let's take a final 3-minute break. We'll wrap up the show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
So the Wisco Sports Show got about 60 seconds left. Thank you to everybody. The temperature on the show really fired up from about 5 o'clock to 5:20. If you missed that part of the show, the podcast, listen. I'll get it posted just after 6 o'clock. No Wisco Sports Show tomorrow. It will be a best of a compilation show. So some segments from the last couple of weeks that I found interesting enough to play again. And if I'm being 100% honest, segments that were the correct length to fit the time window. Coming up next, just a couple minutes away, Thorson and Heilprin will be taking over. Zach and Ebo live at Monks at Sun Prairie. Perfect place to go blow off some steam after work, get an early start on the weekend, watch Thursday night football as well. The Seahawks and the Niners should be a really good game tonight. I picked the Seahawks to cover. I think it's a 3.5, 4.5 point spread. When I did our picks with Bill earlier, I would not financially bet along with that, but that's where I feel going into tonight's game. The Niners might also be due for a get-right moment. In Seattle on a short week. It's not Seattle tonight, is it? Who is it? Why can't I remember who it is tonight? No, it's. Why am I not trusting myself? It's San Francisco tonight, right? Well, Zach and Ebo can be in charge of that information. Talk to you Monday.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers are getting ready for a visit from Arizona on Sunday. It's possible they could have wide receiver Christian Watson back on the field. He injured his ankle against Minnesota a couple of weeks ago, missed the game against the Rams, but he practiced yesterday for the first time since the injury.
It's super frustrating, but then I try to look at the positives of everything, and I think maybe all of the training that I put in to get my body right for the season is the reason I came out of it with not as bad of an injury, not as significant of an injury. So that's really just how I'm looking at it. If I'm able to go out and play this week and only miss one game, I feel like that's a positive from the whole situation for sure.
Again, it'll be the Packers and Cardinals on Sunday. Kick is at noon. Turn to the Badgers. They're going to head to New Jersey tomorrow. It's where they'll face off against Rutgers on Saturday morning. Wisconsin coming off a 52-6 win over Purdue, easily its most complete performance of the year. Scarlet Knights fell to 4-1 last Saturday, lost at Nebraska, but are favored by 2.5 in the game. Kick on Saturday is set for 11 a.m.
Rural Mutual Insurance.